Traveling is a huge hassle for most people. Between security, cramped seats, and overpriced food, there are many reasons to dread flying. This is even true for relatively short flights lasting only a couple of hours. But imagine taking a 19-hour non-stop flight halfway across the world. That's exactly what the Australian airline Qantas did when they announced an experimental flight from Sydney to New York. Today, we're looking at the world's longest flight. The airline announced in late 2019 that they would be testing the psychological and physical impacts of subjecting passengers to such a long flight. The flight had a small skeleton crew, a group of journalists, and a handful of adventurous passengers. Qantas wants to begin flying the time-saving route commercially as soon as 2022. So the airline used this test trip to explore ways to reduce its inevitable downside: the mental strain of being in a plane for so long. According to one journalist who reported through the flight, the physical pressure of this experiment is clear. Around me, passengers are standing up just to stay awake. The crew have been asked to keep sleep diaries and to use iPads to rate their fatigue, reaction times, workload, and stress. That dozy frequent flyer at the front of the plane is asleep again. And it's important to remember that a flight cannot travel this distance under normal circumstances. It's currently not possible for commercial aircraft to fly such a distance with a full load of passengers and cargo. To ensure the plane could go the distance, the flight had maximum fuel, a restricted baggage load, and no cargo. A team of researchers was deployed to monitor lighting and activity, as well as the sleep patterns and consumption levels of passengers. The flight, designated QF7879, became the longest commercial flight in the world, surpassing Singapore Airlines' regular commercial service between Singapore and New York. Qantas also plans to test a non-stop flight from London to Sydney in the coming months. That route would be almost 500 miles longer, adding up to an hour of flight time. Airplanes and airlines are more technically advanced than ever before, with better fuel efficiency, longer ranges, and computer-aided logistical planning. But as some flights get longer, the question is whether passengers and flight crews can tolerate more hours in the air without a layover to break things up. Qantas Chief Executive Alan Joyce, who was on the flight, said after landing, "This is a really historic moment for Qantas. A really historic moment for Australian aviation and a really historic moment for world aviation. We know ultra-long-haul flights pose some extra challenges, but that's been true every time technology has allowed us to fly further. The research we're doing should give us better strategies for improving comfort and well-being along the way." After landing, the captain of the flight, Sean Golding, said, "The flight was very successful from two components. The first one was research, and also the feat of distance. The flight last night was 16,200 kilometers. We were airborne for 19 hours and 16 minutes, and we landed here in Sydney with a comfortable 70 minutes of fuel." Thankfully for the passengers, because the flight had so few people, everyone was given a business class seat, which reclined into a full bed. It's hard to imagine being on a plane for this long in economy class. According to a journalist reporting for Time magazine, "Personally, I would choose a direct Sydney to New York flight over one with a layover. But it won't suit everyone. It took discipline and work to stick to the no-sleep routine in the first half of this flight. There may be a benefit to switching to the destination time immediately, but it comes at a price. I feel like I had to earn it." The flight on a brand new Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner named Kookaburra was the first of 3 test flights exploring the practicalities of ultra-long-distance commercial aviation as part of Qantas's Project Sunrise. And, as mentioned previously, this will not remain the longest flight in the world for long. Qantas plans to test a flight from London to Sydney in the coming months that would add another hour to the already brutally long flight. This may usher in a new era of ultra-long-haul flights. At the end of the day, consumers will just need to decide for themselves whether this grueling trip is worth it for a direct flight across the world.